Good afternoon, everyone. I am Brian Fernando Caballero Espejel. I will talk about the chapter 1, the science of biology. The chapter 1 has three themes. The first one is what is science, the second one is science in a context, and the third one is the studying of life. The first theme is what is science. The science is an organized way of gathering and analyzing evidence about the natural world. The goal of science is to provide natural explanations for events in the natural world. This we can see it by the way of experimentals or experiments that we made at the lab or that we see through the time. The what procedures are at the core of scientific methodology. The scientific methodology involves observing and asking questions, making inference and forming hypotheses, conducting controlled experiments, collecting and analyzing data, and drawing conclusions. Here in this theme, we can see that an inference is a logical interpretation based on what scientists already know. And a hypothesis is a scientific explanation for a set of observations that can be tested in ways that support or reject it. The controlled experiment is that when the one variable is changed. By the way, the dependent variable, is a variable that it cannot be changed, but the independent variable is a variable that can be changed. A control group is when any variables it is not is when the experiment is not changed without any variable. For drawing conclusions, the scientists use experimental data to support his evidence, to refute or revise the hypothesis, begin test or support their experiments by the way of information. That the second theme is science in a context. Well, um, what scientific attitudes help generate new ideas? Well, the curiosity, since a curious researcher may ask for all the things. For example, let's think about a scientific that is asking why a plant is growing in that form. So that's a part of the curiosity. Other thing is the skepticism. Good scientists are skeptics, which this means that they question the existing ideas and hypotheses. They refuse to accept explanations without evidence. Open-mindedness. Scientific must remain open-minded, meaning that they are willing to accept different ideas that may not agree with their hypotheses. And the last one, but is not the less important, creativity. Researchers also need to think creatively to design experiments to create that data. The role of technology here in the science, it has not only in science, also in society, are closely linked. Discovery in one field, the science may lead to new technologies, and those technologies in turn enable scientists in another fields to ask new questions or gather data of new ways. That's why it's linked to the three to society, technology, and science. Why is peer review important? Well, peer review is important since articles in scientific journals allow to research to share ideas and to test and evaluate each other's works. What is a scientific theory? In science, the word theory applies to a well-tested explanation that unifies broad range of observations and hypotheses that enable scientists to make accurate predictions about new situations. It's a very common use in the science type of the science lab. What is the relationship between science and society? Well, using science involves understanding in its context in society. That's why they are related and have the relationship, by the way. This is all for term number 2. Studying life. This is the last term of the chapter 1. Biology is the study of life. But life, what is life? What distinguishes living things from non-living matter? Well, living things are made up of basic units called cells, are based on a universal genetic code, obtain a use of materials and energy, grow and develop, reproduce and respond to their environment, maintain a stable internal environment, and change over time. One thing that most of the living organisms have is the DNA, or the genetic code. Um, some organisms have a stimulus, is a signal to which an organism responds. There are two types of reproduction: sexual reproduction, that cells from two parents unite up to form the first cell of a new organism, and the other one is asexual reproduction, in which a single organism reproduces offspring identical to itself. Um, Other thing is that all organisms need to keep their internal environment relatively stable, even when external conditions change dramatically. This condition is called homeostasis. All organisms must take in materials the energy to grow, develop, and reproduce. The combination of chemical reactions through which an organism builds up or breaks down materials is called metabolism. This is the most of the characteristics that all the living things have. What are the central themes of biology? The central themes of biology is the study of biology revolves around several interlocking big ideas: the cellular basis of life, information and heredity, matter and energy, growth, development, and reproduction. The other one is homeostasis, evolution, structure and function, unity and diversity of life, interdependence in nature, and science as a way of knowing. These are the big ideas of biology. How is metric system important in science? Most of scientists use the metric system when collecting data for performing experiments. This is all with the chapter 1. Most of the chapter. This is a kind of way of resume about what is science in a context, and studying life. Thank you for your attention.